My name is Steve Santini, the world's most extreme escape artist, and this is my escape plan. Based upon my past experience and history breaking out of historical institutions like dungeons and prisons and jail cells, I was approached with this project to tackle what is basically the Mount Everest of maximum security prisons. What we did is to create a fictional maximum security penitentiary by drawing on the most secure elements of all the other maximum security prisons in existence. It's like the Franken prison, the most difficult to escape from. You're facing something with incredible challenges, mechanical, physical, high tech. My challenge, figure the way out, if there is one. My interest in escapology, or the art of escape, started when I was 14 years old. I was a procrastinator in school and I was late with a biography to be submitted to the teacher. She said, "Look, I'm assigning you one." She handed me a book to do a report on about this guy called Harry Houdini. I took this thing home and read it cover to cover. This guy's getting chained up and nailed into boxes, breaking out of jails. And that was it for me. I was hooked. So I started doing this stuff for real. I mean, my parents are getting calls saying, "Look, your kid's over here. He's locked in my kid's bike lock. He's gonna jump into our pool." I was like 15, 16 years old when I decided I'm gonna do this full time. And I knew to further the escape skills, I had to learn everything there was to know about locks. So I ended up working for a locksmith, and at night I would go out to these talent nights at local pubs, bars, whatever, challenge people to tie me in a straitjacket, lock me in chains. You know, after years of doing things the way Houdini did them, which is to get locked up, go behind a curtain, I realized that people wanted more. And since I wasn't using tricks in the first place, I thought, hey, if I have to pick a lock, I want to show me picking a lock. If I'm struggling with a deadly device, I want them to feel that. Ripley's Believe It or Not entitled me in one of their international books with the moniker, the world's most extreme escape artist. Ripley saw some of my work in 2005. I was manacled, locked inside a vault. On 3 sides were propane flamethrowers. And there I was in pitch darkness, and the flamethrowers are heating this thing up like an oven, and I was inside cooking. And it's a matter of escape or be served up as an entree. When it comes to my jail and prison escapes, I've kind of pioneered those because it's done in full view of the media. There's no trick. It's like, this guy's an inmate. He's locked up. How's he getting out? I'm using things that are not supposed to do the job to do the job. Opening locks, and then suddenly I'm using part of the lock to open a shackle. Open the shackle, take the arm of the shackle, and I'm opening up a jail cell door lock. I mean, these things are staggering. People look at them and they go, that's not supposed to work. But it does. And that's my approach. And all these things I've learned in the real world come into play with this incredible challenge. As an escape artist, if you're gonna do this stuff for real, you've got to study the people that did it for real. One historic facility that people think is impregnable is the Tower of London. Indeed, very few people have ever escaped from the tower, but it has happened. One example in the 1500s was Father John Gerard. He was a Catholic priest imprisoned in the tower during a Protestant reign. Father John Gerard started to get along with the guards. He got the guards to bring him oranges. And out of the orange peels, he'd weave them together to make intricate crucifixes, which he'd give back as gifts to the guards. And finally, he got bold enough to ask to write a letter that the guards would spirit out of the Tower of London. And they said, sure, you can do it, but you have to write it in charcoal, and we have to see it before you send it. Well, he did, and the guards took it right out of the prison. What they didn't realize is he'd written it with the orange juice. His counterpart on the outside took the letter, held it up to a candle flame, the orange juice turned brown, and it detailed an escape plan. And sure enough, the counterparts were there to meet Father Gerard when a short time later, he climbed up to the top of the tower, shimmied down on a rope, and was taken away by his friends. There's 3 things I take away from this that I can use. Using the guards to get you something you can use to break out, having friends on the outside willing to help you with your escape plan, and also using something in a way it was never designed. 3 elements, they've inspired me, and I'm now armed with them. Another great inspiration is a notorious 1700s English highwayman, Jack Sheppard. He was a robber, he was a brigand, he was a thief, but the populace by and large liked this guy because he kept breaking out. He had 3 separate notable escapes, but the last one, he pulled off something really amazing. I mean, they knew that Sheppard had escaped repeatedly. So the authorities this time manacled him in really heavy irons, chained with a huge padlock to the floor of his cell. On the previous 2 escapes, Sheppard had broken through the roof. So now your feet are chained to the floor. You're not climbing up on the roof, you're not going anywhere. They neglected to notice the other stuff in his cell. He had his lover come visit him. She smuggled in female clothing. Now, she distracted the guards. While she did this, Sheppard took a nail from the bunk, made a lockpick, picked open the padlock that held his feet to the floor. They both shimmy out through the bar of the cell. He puts on the women's clothing and slips out of the fortress. I mean, you got 2 elements at play here that are brilliant. You've got one tool being used to defeat restraints, the coolest thing. Sheppard used a disguise to escape from his incarceration. When you think of maximum security prisons, the icon has got to be Alcatraz. Nobody had ever escaped from the rock. You have incredible currents, icy cold water they said would paralyze a swimmer. You drown before you made it to the shore. The water is home to great white sharks. You have the guards, the guns, the searchlights, all these elements. Like all maximum security facilities, somebody took the time to see some weaknesses. In this case, it was Frank Morris doing time there, and a small crew he'd put together. He notices the masonry around his grating in the wall and the ventilation shaft is chipping off. That's because of the salt air. He starts chipping away at this bit by bit and then dumping the scraps of stone in the yard when he goes out for exercise. They make paper mache heads to put in the beds. They make false grates to cover the hole in the wall. And on the night they escaped, they went through the wall, pulled it back, climbed up ventilation shafts to get to the roof where they had stashed rubber jackets, raincoats that they put together to make rafts. They floated off the island and were never seen again. Some principles from Alcatraz that I can draw on for inspiration in my escape plan is misdirection. Using ordinary objects to do jobs they weren't intended to do. And it's something I plan to do as well. A successful escape from a maximum security prison involves a perfect storm of inmate observation and institutional weaknesses. In our maximum security prison, our inmate has to learn to think of everything as a potential weakness, as a tool. Our inmate needs to observe everything. In our maximum security prison environment, you have 3 layers of fences. All of these are topped with lethal razor wire that if you climb up and you grab this, you're severing a whole hand. You have 1 fence first, then a no man's land of several feet, and you come to a central fence, which is electrified. Touch it once, it'll knock you on your ass, but then it recharges and ups the voltage to 50,000 volts. Touch it a second time, you're dead. Guard shifts, or the changing rotation of the guards, happens several times a day. People going in and out of the prison have to go through a rigorous security check. Staff have to show a photo ID. The information on that is then matched against the system in the computer, and that allows the access. In a modern prison, everything in the prison is tied into a central computerized network. And like any computer system, the larger and more complex it is, the more prone to something going wrong with it. Items that are forbidden inside the prison are known as contraband. And one way some of this stuff gets in is by guards. Prison guards earn roughly $30,000 a year each and can earn upwards of $1,000 or more to smuggle in a cell phone and a pound of tobacco. In this institution, surveillance cameras are everywhere. The only privacy an inmate has is in his own cell. In every prison, there's a human element that can be exploited. And in many cases, That's with the guards. The daily demeanor of the guards is not lost on the inmates. Our inmate notices one of the guards is a hothead and is easily provoked to losing it. He plans to use that information to his own advantage. No matter how secure the institution, inmates are always guaranteed some rights. They have the right to meet with their lawyer, the right to contact media, and the right also to have personal visits. You're actually allowed to hug your wife or give your girlfriend a kiss. One of the security features of any institution is a structured inmate schedule, but it works both ways. The inmates know exactly where the guards will be at what time. Every hour, on the hour, one guard walks up and down the cell corridors, looking through the viewing ports, making sure each inmate is in his cell. Once done that, he comes back to the control pod and is buzzed out of the cell block. Guards are warned never to fraternize too much with the inmates where they're sharing personal information. These are things inmates use. But during conversation with a cell block guard, the inmate learns that guard is soon going on vacation, and he'll be replaced by a utility guard. A utility guard is, in effect, a temporary replacement guard sent over by the Department of Corrections. As such, his face would not be known to the regular guards. When the utility guard arrives at the prison, now our inmate knows it's go time. The escape plan can begin. Step 1. Our inmate's girlfriend has bribed a guard to smuggle in a cell phone. Then, the inmate uses that very cell phone to contact somebody on the outside. At this point, the inmate meets with his attorney. There's a guard watching, but the guard at the window doesn't notice that when the inmate hands back those legal papers to his lawyer, he palms off the paperclip. Soon after, the inmate receives a letter from his girlfriend. Inside is a letter and a photograph of him and his girlfriend. He tapes that photo to his cell wall. The inmate has a contact visit with his girlfriend. During the visit, she gives him a kiss and passes into his mouth a balloon filled with chloroform. An officer supervises this contact visit, and at its conclusion, he gives the inmate a full-body pat-down, but he finds nothing. During rec time, our inmate creates a diversion by attacking another prisoner. This causes the guards to yell for a lockdown. On the team applying restraints is that hothead guard. Our inmate knows this, elbows him in the face, pissing him off even more. The guards take our inmate back to his cell in restraints. Taken to his cell in heavy restraints, our inmate is placed on his bunk. Normally, shackles would be removed when the inmate is put inside their cell. This hothead guard is really pissed off. He's going to teach our inmate a lesson. Leave him there in shackles and chains. Our inmate now has the perfect opportunity to get these cuffs and restraints off. Taking out the paperclip, he spreads it out into a long, thin piece of wire. Twisting it in the center, he ends up with something that looks like a circular handle. In each end, he bends a small hockey stick typed hook. Putting the small one into the keyway of the handcuffs, what he tries to duplicate is the rotation of the key. At the end of the handcuff key is a small piece of metal referred to as the bit. This is the piece that rotates inside the lock, catches the ratchet, and releases the mechanism. The inmate quickly gets the cuffs off, puts them in an unlocked position, and is posing to be in shackles, but they're just open and loose. With the shift change now complete, our new utility guard walks the floor doing the hourly cell checks. When he gets to our inmate's cell, he sees the man in restraints. Knowing it's time to remove them, he asks for the pod guard to crack that cell. When our utility guard comes into the cell, leans over the prisoner to check on his shackles, our inmate just slips them off, grabs the guard, and chloroforms him. Our inmate switches into the guard's uniform, which happens to include cold weather gear because it's winter. He comes out of the cell with his hat pulled down low over his face, carrying the leg irons, belly chain, and handcuffs. Our inmate walks up to the pod guard, who buzzes him out of the cell block. In addition to a guard's uniform, the inmate now has the Range Master swipe card. With this, he can walk through any of the halls in the institution and go into any of the offices. Our inmate comes to the Sallyport door, where he's requested to hold up his ID card and show it to the camera. The guard checks that ID card against what's on his computer. It's a match, and he unlocks the final door. You may be wondering, how on earth did he get an ID with his picture on it? Well, check this out. Before he came to the Sallyport gate and showed his ID card, our inmate took that picture of he and his girlfriend off the cell wall. The inmate now goes out into the corridors of the institution and went to the offices. With a pair of scissors, he cuts out his face from the photo of he and his girlfriend, and he glues it onto the utility guard's ID photo, and out he walks. You're probably wondering, how on earth did that ID card match the info in the central computer? The girlfriend. His girlfriend was pretty resourceful. She recruited someone that was working on the maintenance of the mainframe computer system. She planted the picture, the associated information, and that way when he showed that ID card, that door was going to swing wide open. No matter how secure the institution, nothing is escape-proof. Somebody's going to crack it, or a crew of people are going to put their heads together, and it will be broken.